I just finished my last long run for this 20-week prep for this ultra marathon that I'm running. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through what this prep has looked like and how I'm structuring my taper. Let's dry off, let's get into it. Training for a 50-mile ultra sounds insane. And yeah, I mean, it is kind of insane, but it's a lot simpler when you break it down week by week. So in today's video, I'm gonna show you just how I trained for my 50-mile ultra that I'm now tapering for, and then what that taper looks like. So my goal for this 50-mile ultra isn't just to finish. Yes, it's my first 50-mile ultra, and I'd probably be somewhat happy if I just finished, but that's not what I built this 20-week program about. This is not what I trained for. It wasn't just to finish. It was to run it in a respectable time at a pretty good pace. Now, I haven't ran it, so we'll see how it plays out, but that's what I trained for. I trained to run it in a nine-ish minute pace, 50 miles, and I built it around my life and letting myself still have somewhat of a life. So while this whole training's been crazy, I built it around my life, and it was 20 weeks of some pretty reasonable training. While the runs did get pretty crazy, pretty intense, we made it through. It's taper week or a week out, so let's get into it. So imagine training like stacking blocks. Week after week, just building another layer. And then after 10 weeks, you look down and you realize you've built a pretty strong foundation. You don't want to be too heavy, but you want to be steadily increasing. So ultra marathon training is not like marathon training. You've got two different goals, but it's similar in some aspects. Weeks 1 through 4 is just building a base. You want to get comfortable in a routine. You want to be 30 to 40 miles, just steady, strong aerobic conditioning. Weeks 5 through 12, that's when you start to see some gradual increase in your mileages. That's when you start to build your back-to-back long runs, which I'll get into later in this video. And this is where you really start to make some progress. Now, we are lifters at the core principle of all of this. So I was still lifting 2 to 3 times a week at the beginning of prep. Now, this changed throughout prep, and I'll get into it later in this video as well. But in the beginning, I really focused on 2 to 3 times a week, hitting legs at least once a week. That is gonna help keep injury away. That is gonna keep your leg muscles strong. That's gonna help with your running as we get later into prep, and it's gonna make you a stronger runner throughout this whole process. So yes, while your running and time on feet start to increase and you spend more time out on that road, out on that trail, you still want to make time for lifting some weights. Now, my biggest recommendation to track your mileage and to see your progress, 1, to motivate you, but 2, to make sure you're still on track, is have a place where you write all your miles down. Most people use Strava, and that's a great tool. You get your little bar, you can see your fitness increase, you can see your mileage week after week. But if you really wanna get to the end of this program and you wanna look back and realize just how far you've came, that's where I use Notion. You can use Notes app, but I write it down myself, and I can see week 1, 36 miles. That's where I started. And then I can see week after week, scrolling down all of the progress that I've made, couple back-to-back 80-mile weeks, and then the taper started. And you can see, maybe you can see, I have all of my races that I've ever ran. I follow the same process. And that is good to help you track your progress. That's good to keep you motivated. It's good to keep you humbled. It's good just to reflect on it. Now, I'm gonna teach you the ultra runner's secret weapon, and it's back-to-back long runs. You do these back-to-back long runs to teach your body fatigue management. Instead of going out for a 40-mile run, you can simulate a 40-mile run by doing back-to-back 20-milers. And let me tell you, coming from marathon training, some pretty hardcore marathon training programs, this is intense. The second long run of the week is by far the most miserable run you'll ever do. You run your 20-mile run and you're feeling good, but you go through that day thinking, I have another 20 miles in the morning. And when you wake up that next morning for that second 20-mile run within 24 hours, your legs are dead, you're fatigued, you feel like you are running with a sack of bricks on your back. It is not fun. Expect your pace to be way slower, but expect yourself to get better as you go through the program. This is where I learned how important recovery is, not just after your run, but also focusing on fluids and nutrition during a run. So during that first 20-mile run, during your first long run, I'm thinking about fueling for this run, but I'm also making sure that just because I know I can finish this run without eating that extra sandwich, without taking that extra electrolyte powder into my system, I need to make sure that I take it because my body needs to start repairing as soon as this run is over so that come tomorrow I can perform. So it makes you really think about how much electrolytes your body is going through, how many carbs you're going through, and just think about it. Think about how much you carb load for a marathon. A lot. Now try doing that for 2 marathons back to back in the middle of a work week. It is a lot of food, and no matter how many carbs you think you need, you probably need more. And I'm not gonna lie, I am not going to miss this back-to-back long run. When I tell you how much I dreaded it, I don't think it's clear through the camera. Like, it sucks so much. And there's a lot of reasons why I liked ultra marathon training. There's a lot of reasons why I like marathon training. But the one and the most important reason why I don't like ultra marathon training is this second long run. It is miserable, but it is the key to success if you're ever gonna run your 50, 60, 100-mile races. That's what you have to do. So one of the reasons why I liked ultra marathon training is because you weren't so focused on hitting a certain time on your run. Where marathon training, you have a marathon time that you want to run. And so throughout training, you're constantly focused on hitting these splits, your tempo runs. You're constantly worried about hitting your 5K pace, your 10K pace. Whereas with ultra marathon running, I threw on my water pack, I filled it with snacks, I had a bunch of electrolytes, I had my belt on, and I'd throw an audio book in, and I just would say, sun's coming up, let's go for a cruise, let's just spend some time out on the pavement watching the sunrise. A few hours would go by, it runs over. It is a much more relaxing sort of training. It is way more time consuming, but the pressure to perform on given days is not there. You're more concerned about showing up and hitting your mileage, which gets real later in prep. Now I'm gonna go through my 2 peak weeks. I ran a 100-mile relay race a couple weeks before, so I didn't hit a peak, but I did hover around. Week 15, I ran 80 miles, which consisted of Sunday, 8 miles, Monday, 14 miles, Wednesday, 21 miles, Thursday, 19.25 miles, Friday, 10 miles, Saturday, 8 miles. The following week, I ran 79.45 miles, which consisted of Sunday, 7.65 miles, Monday, 14 miles, Wednesday, 20 miles, Thursday, 16 miles, and then Saturday is when I ran that 100-mile race, which I did a total of 24 miles. So I did back-to-back 80-mile weeks, and it was intense. The recovery needed, the hydration, the focus on fueling is a whole different level. Things towards the end of my prep got a little interesting just because I had another race in the middle of it, but basically I broke my runs up the same way week after week as I was building. I would have my Monday zone 2 run, which got up to 14 miles at its peak. I would cross train on Tuesday. Wednesday would be my first long run of the week. Thursday would be my second long run of the week. Friday would be a speed workout that peaked up to 13 miles in a week. Saturday was a slow recovery run, which peaked up to 8 miles a week. And then Sunday was another slow recovery run that peaked up to 8 miles a week. And that's what I did week after week. Week 1, I started at 6 miles Sunday, 8 miles Monday, 14 Wednesday, 2 miles Thursday. Because I am telling you, start out slow. Because that second long run after your long run is miserable. I can recall that 2 mile run being so painful, wondering how I'm ever gonna go back to back. And then Friday, 6 miles. I wasn't even doing a Saturday run. That was 36 miles, week 1. When I look at those numbers, they seem so small and so easy. And it's crazy that when you follow this program and you stick to it, the progress that you make. I will say though, while the program is extremely difficult to keep yourself disciplined, if you follow it and you are progressing week after week, you start to feel so fit. Like you feel so healthy. You feel like all the food that you're eating, your body is just absorbing. You're running so much. You feel so aerobically conditioned. You feel so clean. And I sometimes think about when all this is over that I'm going to miss how good I feel. I feel strong. Sometimes in marathon training, you're pushing for paces and you're pushing for pace, and you start to face some injuries where this ultra marathon, you're really just cruising and you're just spending all this time exercising, but it's not grounding and pounding as much per se. That you feel good. You feel really, really healthy. So now that leads me to my taper, which is where I'm currently at. So the goal is to decrease mileage week after week leading in. So I peaked at 80 miles. I want to reduce it down to 60 miles. And then from there, I'm going to reduce it down to 40, which is where I'm currently at. And then race week, I'll be anywhere from 15 to 20 miles before my 50-mile ultra. And tapering is really, really weird. It's like you're pushing so hard and then all of a sudden everything just stops and you start to question yourself if you're even ready for this race. You start playing all these mental games with you, phantom injuries. You start to question your program. You start to question if you train too much. You question if you started this taper way too early, if you're eating enough carbs, if you're hydrating enough before the race. You start to think you're sick every single time before the race. And it's all just a big mental game, but you have to trust the process no matter how hard it is. Your training is to train to get tired, but races are won when you're rested. I said it in my last video, but the old saying goes, it's better to show up 10% undertrained than 1% overtrained. So if you're debating between a 2-week taper, a 3-week taper, and there's certain circumstances where one is better, and a lot of it's up to personal preference, but understand that your body needs rest before these big efforts, because rest now equals performance later. So yeah, 20 weeks of training. It's a lot of discipline, a lot of focus on nutrition. It's a lot of early mornings. It's a lot of running when you don't want to, but there's a lot of learning involved in it. The key thing that you want to remember is gradual increases, and with ultramarathon training, it's really focusing on that back-to-back run. They say you want to get up to back-to-back 20 milers, a couple of those in your program, and you should be good. I got up to 25 and 20, just wanted to be extra prepared. But you're building that base, you're peaking, you're tapering, you're resting so that you can perform on race day, and you stick to the program and you follow the process. Everyone always wants to push, push, push. I see so many people run 7-minute miles, 8-minute miles, and then you go out for a jog with them, and at mile 6 or 7, they're crashing because they never realized that running is a slow, painfully slow process, and you got to play it smart. If this video helped you understand what ultramarathon training looks like, drop a like. And next week is race week. So if you want to follow me through that process, see what race day looks like, see how this program turns out, how I perform, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. Keep working, keep pursuing greatness, keep running those miles, and I'll catch you in the next one.